So up on my channel right now is a video where we broke down the live action fan casting of a potential Final Fantasy VII live action movie. So I went through not Facebook, went through TikTok, and had my following vote on who they would think should play certain characters throughout the live action Final Fantasy VII remake. I'm not going to go through that list because there's a video out for it. I want to be able to share that with you guys. So go check out that video. But it got me thinking, with the Final Fantasy franchise, Final Fantasy VII is clearly the most popular. I don't think anyone can deny that. Whether you think it's the best or not, that's a whole totally separate question. But I think it's definitely the most popular. It's the one that Square Enix keeps going back to. It is their moneymaker, their cash cow, and it doesn't look like it's stopping anytime soon. With all that being said, when I was thinking about live action adaptations of Final Fantasy, I thought to myself, what would make the best live action adaptation? And originally, I went between Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy X because those are my two favorite, and I think that they are arguably the most popular two of the franchise. But when I really started thinking about it, Final Fantasy VIII, I really think would make the best live action adaptation of the Final Fantasy franchise. And here's why. I don't think you make it a movie. Now, I'm always one that's like movie first. I want to see it be made into a movie. I love television shows, but like at the end of the day, if you're going to give me a story either in a movie or a television show, 99.9% of the time, I'm going to go movie. This is the 0.01% of the time where I'm going to say a Final Fantasy VIII live action television series would be the best live action adaptation of any Final Fantasy thing ever that we have ever gotten or could ever get. Actually, I don't want to say could ever get. There's obviously potential for more games, but I think like when you look at what's out there now, a live action Final Fantasy VIII adaptation of television series would be the way to go. So I want to talk about that briefly just for a second and what that could potentially look like. First things first, I think you need a studio that would really put a lot of thought and love into this, right? I think you can't just make it the, next ABC, Saturday night television show on network TV or whatever, right? It needs to be with one of the main platform streamers. It needs to be with someone like Amazon or Apple or Netflix that are going to put time, money, energy into this. And so when you find the right platform for it to live, there are aspects of Final Fantasy VIII that I think really draws itself to making a great television series. So the first thing is with the seed aspect of it, right? The military school aspect of it. I think it gives you a lot of consistent B and C plot points throughout the story to kind of keep us going episode to episode. It's always the hardest part of a television series, right? Is you have your main story arc, and that's cool. Like, that's the easy one to be able to flush out. But as you're going, if you're talking about, let's face it, in the world of television series right now, it's probably going to be 8 to 10 episodes. And not the old school traditional 22 episodes, which would be phenomenal. I would love that. But let's just say 8 episodes. You're going to need these B and C plot points to kind of work their way through. And I think there's a lot of different levels that you could go with the military school aspect of it that would continue to kind of give us intriguing plot points and character arcs and, relationship building within this world. But that's just the groundwork, right? Obviously, your main character is Squall. Where do you take that character? And I will tell you this, before we get into any other points, I mean this wholeheartedly. Squall's storyline, his character arc, his story arc in the Final Fantasy games is probably the most relatable of any other character in any other Final Fantasy games. Just because I haven't played all the games doesn't mean I don't know the characters and the story arcs, right? So don't come at me because there are several games I haven't played. But I'm speaking solely from Andrew, a dude doing a podcast here. Squall starting so cold-hearted and isolated from the rest of the world, feeling alone and being comfortable in that aloneness is so relatable for a lot of individuals, not just males, but just people in general, especially nowadays. Like we live in a world where social media is what keeps us connected, but the moment we shut our phone off, it's just us. And we're just there by ourselves. And to be honest, we've come too comfortable with that as a society and as individuals. And Squall's story of this, and look, there's a lot of also like masculinity traits like you could really dive into, like I don't want to necessarily say toxic masculinity, but there's a lot of like typical cliche guy tropes that you get with Squall. But at the end of the day, it's a guy who doesn't feel like he deserves to be loved, who finally opens himself up to it and allows people to care for him. And I think that that's super relatable. And I think you could go seasons, multiple seasons, progressing that story arc for Squall. So I think that that gives you a super relatable character and potentially the most relatable personal growth of any Final Fantasy character that we've gotten. But there's also different levels of the show that I think would be intriguing, right? So the wars and the conflicts that happen between the different nations in Final Fantasy VIII, like that's going to give you a global scale. It's going to give you a reason to be able to take this show out of the military base and the school there and give you a reason to be able to explore new worlds and new towns and new terrain, right? Like throughout the course of this world, it's going to give you such a this broad landscape of what this world looks like, while still like making us just feel very immersed into a world that's not our own, if that makes sense. And I think that would make for an incredible series and an incredible point to that series. But here's the biggest two, right? Aside from Squall and his story arc, I think that there is a fantastical element, the time travel element to Final Fantasy VIII that would give the show a very fun sci-fi aspect to it, without being overwhelmingly a sci-fi television series, right? And then the love story between Squall and Rinoa. Like I go back and forth on this, so I'm not gonna come out and just say it, but I think that they are potentially the best love story of any Final Fantasy game as well. And I think it's a large part because obviously a lot of the main characters in Final Fantasy, the guy characters, are like, oh, you can't love me, like I'm cold-hearted and whatever, right? It is what it is, right? It's all the same character trope. But again, it was so thick with Squall, and for him to be like just completely sideswiped by a character like Rinoa that just kind of caught him so off guard and turned his world completely upside down, like that's so relatable in so many ways. Like so when I met my wife, fun story here, I met my wife on MySpace. One, that tells you how old we are. I get it. But two, like it was not, I wasn't looking for, a future wife. Like I had just gotten out of a relationship, and I was looking for someone to have fun with and get to know and just enjoy my life. I was 21 years old, wasn't looking for any sort of commitment, and met my wife on MySpace. Thought she was beautiful, met her in person, and I don't know, like from that moment, everything changed. And the way that I viewed everyone else in comparison to her, it just all changed, right? And I think that when you look at Squall, and the first time he sees Rinoa, that happens to him. It's all different now. The perspective you have of the world is just completely different. And I think that love story would really keep this show grounded. What do you think? That's my pitch. Live action Final Fantasy VIII television series. What do you think? How do you think it would do? Put it in the comments. Let me know what you think.